Tonight's video is on lesson 8.2, adding mixed numbers. So let's take a look at this word problem here. And we'll read it, figure out what we need to do, and then set up the problem. So it says Richard and Amber own neighboring cornfields. Richard harvested 4 4/5 acres of corn on Monday, and Amber harvested 2 1/5 acres. How many acres did they harvest all together? So the key word right here is all together. When we see that, we know, oh, okay, we're going to need to add these fractions together, or mixed numbers, I should say. So let's look at what we have. Right here we have 4 4/5 acres, and then over here we have 2 1/5. It's continued on the next line. So we're going to set that problem up. 4 4/5 plus 2 1/5. Okay, so this one is relatively easy because if we look, the denominators are the same. And if you remember from a couple chapters ago when we were learning how to add fractions, as long as the denominators are the same, we can just go right ahead and add. So we're going to first start with adding. Let me change the color of this real quick. Let's start by adding the fraction part. So 4/5 plus 1/5 is 5/5. And then we'll add the whole numbers next, which is 4 plus 2, 6. And now we're going to simplify, or putting it in lowest terms. So what this really is the same as saying 6 plus 1 whole, because 5 over 5 is the same as 1 whole. So that equals 7. All right, so the next problem here, Clay drank 6 1/3 cups of orange juice in the morning and 4 4/5 cups of orange juice in the afternoon. How much orange juice did Clay drink in all? So our clue, is in all. So that's another indicator that we know, another expression that says we need to add these numbers together. So we're going to set up the problem just like we did the last time. 6 1/3 plus 4 4/5. But what's different about this problem is we have different or unlike denominators. So in this case, the easiest way to come up with the common denominator is using the multiplication rule. So we're going to just multiply the 5 times the 3, and 15 will be our new common denominator. So the first thing what we're going to do is rewrite these using the common denominator. So, and I'm just off to the side here, in case you have forgotten how to do that. If I have 1/3 and I want to know how many 15ths that is, so we're coming up with our new denominator, I'm going to ask myself, what do I multiply 3 by to get to 15? So since 3 times 5 is 15, then I have to do the same thing to the numerator. So 1 times 5 is 5. And then let's do the same thing over here for 4/5. If I start with 4/5, oops, that looks like 4/6. So 4/5, and then I ask myself, how many 15ths is that? 5 times some number equals 15, and that number is 3. So I have to do the same thing to this 4. 4 times 3, which would give me 12 15ths. All right, so now I'm just going to rewrite the entire problem. Let's shift gears here. I'll switch colors. So I have 6, and I look over here. 1/3 is the same as 5 15ths, so I'm going to write it as 5 15ths. Plus, let's see if I can extend the page here. There we go. 4 4/5 is equivalent to 12 15ths, so I'm going to write it as 12 15ths. Let me just, okay. And now I can go ahead and add these. So 5 plus 12 is 17. So I'm going to write 17 15ths. So again, the first step is adding the fraction parts. So I do this part first. I'm going to add the fraction parts first. And then second, I'm going to add the whole numbers. And I've got 10. but I need to simplify this number. So if I look at the fraction, it's improper. So what this is really saying is I've got 10 whole plus, and then I need to simplify this by making this improper a mixed number. So how do I do that? I ask myself, how many times does 15 go into 17? Because 15 is the whole, and it goes in one time with 2 left over, so that would be 2/15. So now I can look at this. I've got 10 plus 1 and 2/15, which is the same as saying 11 and 2/15. And since 2/15 is in simplest form, that is my answer. All right, so here are a few more problems to practice. So if we look at this problem, 2 and 1/2 plus 4 and 3/8. So we look at it and we do not have like denominator. So once again, we need to find a common denominator. But I wouldn't in this case use the multiplication rule because I can see right away that 2 goes into 8, so 8 would be my common denominator. So I'm going to rewrite the problem as 2, and then instead of 1/2, I think to myself, 2 goes into 8 4 times, and therefore 1 times 4 is 4. And it makes sense because if you look at it, 4 is half as much as 8. So 2 1/2 is the same as 2 4/8 plus 4 3/8. And so we're going to first set that problem up over here vertically. This makes it a little bit easier to see. And we're going to add the fraction part first. So 4 plus 3 is 7. And 2 plus 4 is 6. So the answer is 6 7/8. So let's go to the next problem. 5 2/3 plus 1 5/6. So again, different denominators. Switch colors. Different denominators, but again, 3 goes into 6, so this makes it nice and easy. So this time I'll just see if I can squeeze it in here vertically. We've got 5, and our new denominator is going to be 6. So again, I ask myself 3 times what number is 6, and it's 2, so therefore I have to multiply 2 times 2 as well, and that's 4, so I'm going to write that up here. So I just renamed this fraction as an equivalent fraction so I can add these two together. So 5 and 4/6 plus 1 5/6. And when I add those together, 4 plus 5 is 9. So I'm going to write, see if I can squeeze it in there, 9/6. And then 5 plus 1 is 6. Now we need to simplify this. So what I'm really saying again, this is 6 plus, and 9/6 is the same as saying 1, because 6 goes into 9 one time with 3 left over, so 1 3/6. But I can still simplify this further because 3/6 can be reduced. So let's first add together our whole numbers. 6 plus 1 is 7. And then 3/6, I'm just going to circle that so you know what I'm talking about. I'm focusing on this part right here. I know that 3 is half of 6, so that makes it pretty easy. But I'm going to simplify this, and this will become 7 1/2. So our next problem is 3 4/5 plus 2 1/4. And if I look here, one more time, I do not have the same denominator, so I've got to come up with a common denominator. Well, 5 doesn't go into 4, and 4 doesn't go into 5, so I'm going to use the multiplication rule. Because these two numbers are so close together, odds are that's going to be lowest, the smallest denominator I can come up with anyway. I'm going to just multiply this denominator by the second denominator to give me 20 as my new common denominator. So I'm going to rewrite it. Let's do it over here as 3, and my new denominator is 20. So I ask myself, 5 times what is 20? And it's 4, so 4 times 4 is 16. And then I'm going to add to that 2, and again we have to change it on the second number as well to have that denominator of 20. And since 4 times 5 is 20, 1 times 5 is 5. And now let's go ahead and add them. 16 plus 5 is 21, so that gives me 21 20ths. That's the fraction part. And now I add my whole numbers, and that's 5. And let's simplify this. So I've got the whole number of 5 plus 21 over 20 is the same as saying 1 and 1 left over, 1 and 1/20th. So I come up with 1 plus 5 is 6 and 1/20th. And let's move on down to this. I think this is the last problem. Scooch down, yep. 6 and 5/6 plus 8 and 1/6. So this one's going to be easier just because already we know we have this the common denominator. So let's go ahead and write 6 and 5/6. We don't need to do anything to the denominators, plus 8 and 1/6. Let's add the fractions first. 5 plus 1 is 6, so I have 6 over 6, and 8 plus 6 is 14. So 14 and 6/6. And since 6/6 is the same as saying 1 whole, we know we have altogether 15.